Good evening, everyone. President of the Academy, past presidents, vice presidents, fellows of the Academy, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of fellows of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, Ghana's premier learned society, I warmly welcome you all to day 3 of this year's 3-day public forum. Today is the final day. This event is being streamed live on all the Academy's social media platforms, Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. The Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences Public Forum, which usually takes place in June, started as a collaboration with the Frederick Ebert Foundation in 1993. The maiden event was on the theme, Making Democracy Work in the Fourth Republic. 20 years thereafter, in 2013, the public forum became exclusively a Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences event. Over the years, the forum has dealt with various themes, such as accountability in governance, genetically modified organisms, waste management, migration and development, sustainable development goals and national development, and African continental free trade area, challenges and prospects. This year's theme is the impact of modern technology and artificial intelligence on education delivery. That this topic is an important one goes without saying, in view of all the stimulating discussions that we've had during the past 2 days, and given the global debates about the potential risks and challenges of rapid technological developments and their implications for education around the world. I have no doubt that the experts invited to speak on today's sub-themes, who will be introduced to you shortly, will do justice to their topics and make your time here with us worthwhile. As I indicated on days 1 and 2, this year we are delighted to announce that we have received support from the Bank of Ghana to organize this public forum. We are thankful to them for the sponsorship. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you the chairperson for this evening's session. She is Emerita Professor Isabella Kwachi, Vice President for the Sciences section of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Emerita Professor Kwachi is a professor of immunology and parasitology, University of Ghana. She is the first Emerita Professor in the Sciences at the University of Ghana. She established the Immunology Unit at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research in 1980 to 1983. She was the first female director of the University of Ghana School of Public Health and the foundation dean of the school, which also makes her the first female dean in the College of Health Sciences at the University of Ghana. Emerita Professor Kwakye has served on numerous national and international committees and boards and received several awards. She is a former member of the Ghana Health Service Council and former UNESCO Chair for Women in Science and Technology in the West Africa region. She won the 2014 Laureate African Union Kwame Nkrumah Award for Women in Science. She is the 2019 Laureate for the Clara Southmaid Ladlow Award by the American Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. Women's World Day 2021 recognized Emerita Professor Kwakye as one of 7 women in science who have changed our world for the better. In addition to being a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, she is a fellow of the African Academy of Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our chairperson, Professor Kwakye. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorary Secretary, for your kind words of introduction. Thank you. Good evening. President of the Academy, past presidents of the Academy, vice presidents of the Academy, fellows of the Academy, invited guests, our students who are yet to arrive, and media, our fellows and guests online, good evening to all. Today is the final of our 3-day discourse on the impact of modern technology and artificial intelligence on education delivery. We have had 2 exciting days of instructive and thought-provoking lectures. Day 1, we had the state and status of technology and artificial intelligence in education delivery in Ghana, the challenges, opportunities, and prospects, having Prof. Ferdinand Katsiriku. He dealt with where we currently are in Ghana and the sub-region. Then we had Dr. Kielsen we learned on the benefits and drawbacks of AI. Day 2, we dealt with the ethics and regulation of artificial intelligence in education. And from Professor Adebayo Adekoya, we learned about the ethical considerations, equity, privacy, data protection, and human dignity. And then we had Dr. Nkrumah, who imbibed in us the role for regulation of AI in education, the role of government, stakeholders, and ecosystem. Today, our final day, we have 3 young colleagues in the driving seat to talk on the future of education in the digital age. And the 3 speakers. And I want to introduce all 3. And then, since some of us have vertical or horizontal issues, we'll just go down and so that we can watch the presentations and then join the platform again. But introducing from my immediate left is, so we have 3 topics, 3 very exciting topics. On topic 1, which is emerging trends in education delivery and research through technology, we have Ms. Faiza Umar Bawa. And on topic 2, Our second speaker in the middle, he'll be talking of innovative technologies for immersive learning, and that's Mr. Charles Antipem. And then the third topic will be the new classroom learning environment, and that will be by Dr. Samuel Boateng, who just joined us. And then we will have questions and answers. But let me go ahead and introduce all three, and then we'll leave Faiza to start off, and then we'll join us and when we proceed. So Ms. Faiza Umar Bawa is a lecturer in the Department of Computer Science and Informatics at the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani. Her primary areas of research interest include educational data mining, EDM, artificial intelligence, and human-computer interaction. She is conducting research for a project on user interfaces, user experience, usability, and co-design frameworks. The field of computing extends beyond the creation of software to include the satisfaction of stakeholders of systems by developing with them and not for them. She had training in blended learning through participating in the Partnership for Enhanced and Blended Learning, PEBL, West Africa Edition. Now, this training equipped her with the knowledge and skills necessary to transform face-to-face courses into blended learning modules. And additionally, she was selected to attend the Digital Education Masterclass, which focused on the development of online courses. The availability of learning management systems and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and virtual reality will allow for development of new pedagogies tailored to the environment and needs of the developing world. Now, technology's advancement has had a significant impact on education, thereby altering its dynamics. Now, Faiza hopes to serve as a role model for students and society, especially those interested in technology. She is a member of the Institute of ICT Professionals in Ghana, the Organization for Women in Sciences for Developing World, OWSD, the Ghana chapter of Women in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, Wisdom Ghana, the Ghana chapter of the Internet Society, and the Ghana Science Association. Now we have Mr. Charles Antipem, is the co-founder and CEO of DEX Technology Limited. And we have brought some of his products. As he's talking, he will be referring to them. He led the development of the Science Set at DEX Technology. In 2018, the Science Set was named as the most innovative education solution in Africa by the African Union Commission for Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation. He is a member of the African Union CESA STEM Education Cluster, a speaker and representative of all African youth entrepreneurs, the UK Africa, and a participant of Investment Summit, London 2020. He has received many awards, a Royal Academy of Engineering Africa Prize alumnus, an American Society of Mechanical Engineers ISHO alumnus, the MTN Heroes of Change Ghana 2019, and a recipient of the 2018 Engineering Excellence Award from Ghana Institute of Engineers. And our third speaker, Dr. Samuel Boateng, is a lecturer at the Department of Computer Science and Informatics, University of Energy and Natural Resources, Sunyani. He has a PhD in Nano and Information Technology from the University of Science and Technology in South Korea. Learning, analytics, education development, and the application of big data science to accelerate the development of the Sustainable Development Goals are three of his primary research areas. Now, Dr. Boateng is a firm believer and advocate for education for global competence and education for sustainable development. He is committed to developing the next generation of technologists with the right attitude and skills to make a global impact. Dr. Boateng gained knowledge and expertise in blended learning when he participated in the Partnership for Enhanced and Blended Learning initiative. He has certificates in supporting technology enhancing learning, quality assurance in blended learning, quality assurance in blended and higher education in Africa, developing people, enhancing practice, gender terminologies, and gender mainstreaming, and gender responsive pedagogy. Now, audience, we have three wonderful young colleagues to give us some mouth-watering lectures. We start with Faiza, and we'll proceed down and have you. Thank you.
Everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to share my thoughts on the future of education, and with a little focus on how we could improve education in Ghana. I would stand on the existing protocols that have been already established by the chairperson. Today, I'll be presenting on the topic, the emerging trends in education and research through technology, with a specific focus on the co-design of educational technologies to revolutionize the learning landscape. We have heard so much in the past few days about AI and education. Today, my focus is not necessarily on artificial intelligence, but considering where we are in, I cannot, of course, speak of education without mentioning artificial intelligence. So we'll have a brief introduction. I'll look at the technological trends in education, what has been happening in education, a little look at what happens in Ghana, and then I would like to talk about the co-design, which I feel is the future of education in Ghana, if we want to actually change it. So in today's rapidly changing world, technology has become an integral part of our lives. It has transformed the way we communicate, work, and even access information. So it is no surprise that it has heavily also impacted the educational sector. So technology has the power to revolutionize the learning process, making it more engaging, personalized, and accessible to learners of all ages and backgrounds. I would like to look at education and research as a learning process altogether. So in my presentation, when I talk about learning, I'm actually looking at the whole process as a whole. Now, the first trend that is very popular to almost all of us is online and blended learning. With the advent of COVID-19, at least all of us have had a feel of online learning. And with my little experience, it is one of the most immersive ways, or one of the most critical methods that allows students to critically think and go through a learning process, especially without location, without the restrictions of location and time. With online and blended learning, students are able to learn at their own convenience and space. So online learning, like we already know, is about using some form of technology that a student can gain some form of insights into a particular subject area, mostly through the use of virtual learning environments. Now, with blend, someone may ask, why blended learning? With the online learning, it's purely through the use of virtual learning environments on digital tools. But the blended learning one comes with a combination of face-to-face and an online aspect. Someone would say, yeah, we already do blended learning over here, but with the experience I got, we are not doing blended learning the right way. For you to be doing blended learning, there actually has to be some well thought. It has to be intentional. You should have actually thought through the curriculum or through the educational process. You pick a particular course, for example, you should be able to identify as an educator or a facilitator of knowledge which aspects of that course you would want to deliver face-to-face and which would go online. And if you're able to do this very well, then you are able to design content that fits both modes of delivery, which actually we have not done so well over here. Usually we just pick any content, especially those that are already made for face-to-face, and say we are delivering them online. And usually we do not get the expected results when we do that. Another exciting trend is the integration of gamification in education. By incorporating game elements and mechanics into educational activities, gamification enhances students' engagement and motivation. It promotes active learning, problem solving, and healthy competition among students. Through gamified experiences, students develop essential skills such as critical thinking, collaboration, and perseverance whilst having fun. So the whole idea of gamification is to make the learning process very entertaining. And usually with gamification, what happens is that the learning process is turned into games, and learners are asked to play a particular game and are rewarded with badges, points, and so on. So if a learner is able to successfully undergo a particular level of training, he or she is then moved to what? An upper level or a higher level of the game. And the higher you move through the game, the more you need your critical thinking abilities and so on and so forth. So you see that you can actually create a gamified learning process for your course, where you start with the basics of the course, which is usually like the first day of the lecture or the introductory part of a course, and then you develop the game such that as the student progresses through the course, the games become harder and tougher, expecting that the student would have to apply more innovative, creative, or critical thinking skills. The next trend is AI, our very famous friend. Artificial intelligence is another transformative trend in education. It has empowered intelligent tutoring systems and adaptive learning platforms. So these technologies analyze vast amounts of student data, identifying individual learning needs, track progress, and offer targeted interventions. By leveraging on AI, we can provide tailored support and resources to each student, ensuring their success and enhancing overall educational elements. When we talk about artificial intelligence, sometimes the first thing that comes to mind is the learner using some AI tool. But that is only one part or one way to use artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can be used at the administrative level, instruction level, and at the teaching level as well. With the administrative level, we can use AI to identify learning styles of students, which could aid in developing systems that would enhance this. there might be a student who prefers listening than watching, or someone who prefers doing as opposed to listening. So these are various learning styles that AI seeks to explore or explores when being used in education. AI used in instruction also allows instruction beyond the classroom and higher level by supporting collaboration. It helps to tailor teaching method for each student based on their personal data and helps instructors create personalized learning plans for each student. So with the help of AI, we do not generalize learning, but instructors are able to personalize the learning process for particular students based on their needs. So AI, again, can be used when in assessment of students and schools, can be used for grading and evaluation of exams, and then can again be used for personalized intelligent teaching. Through AI, we can have smart schools and then online and mobile remote education. The next trend is virtual and augmented reality. These are technologies that hold immense potential for revolutionizing the learning landscape. VR allows students to immerse themselves in a simulated environment, providing deeper understanding of complex subjects. AR enhances the real world by overlaying digital content, such as interactive 3D models on physical objects. These technologies enable experiential learning, fostering creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. So with the advent of AR and VR, you can actually provide the student some form of experience where under normal circumstances, that learner would not be able to have gained that experience. For example, we are usually faced with the problem of having limited computers, for example, at rural areas, right? If AR or VR could be developed very well, you could create a simulation where a student who has not seen a computer before would be able to you'd immerse that computer into the environment of the student or the learner, and then he or she would be able to explore, be able to point out the monitor, the CPU, the mouse, and so on, just to know the various parts or components of a computer. The next trend is mobile learning or mobile e-learning. So when we talk about mobile learning, it's actually mobile e-learning. E-learning that can be done anywhere at any time, and usually done with the use of mobile devices through mobile applications. So we can use smartphones, for example, tablets, and so on. Once that device can move and you can have access to your educational resources, it becomes mobile learning. Another trend is big data analytics. For us to be able to do big data analytics, we need to have humongous amounts of data. Most of the time, what we do over here is actually data mining, where we can have sizable amounts of data we can explore. But with the advent of big data, it means that with huge data, that varies in terms of structure, volume, and then also in, whether the data is clean, that means void of errors or not, with big data analytics, we are able to study trends that come from various educational fields or platforms. But before we can actually do big data analytics, we need to have these systems or tools working where they are able to capture data from learners, from educators, from administrators, and so on. And data analysis in education includes learning analytics, which provides actionable information focusing on individuals' users' needs. Then we have the educational data mining, which promotes discoveries in educational settings. Then we have academic analytics, where we usually look at the business intelligence techniques focusing on institutional levels. So with big data or data mining, you can mine data at various levels of the educational institutions to give you insights into how to go about with your learning. So usually with big data analytics, it goes through a cycle of defining why do you want the data, what do you want to do with it, what problem do you seek to solve by looking out for a particular set of data. Then once you are able to identify what problem you want to solve, you now go ahead to seek or to collect data from the reliable sources. You clean the data thoroughly because usually data comes with unwanted items, errors, and so on. So usually you have to spend some time to get rid of these things before you can actually apply your various data mining techniques or algorithms to your data to be able to discover some hidden patterns that we could not have known by merely looking at the data. So I think this diagram just details what I explained with data mining. So we can see that we have various sources of data: course design, e-books, online learning, student groups, and so on. So they all come together to form the big data analytics. The next trend is Internet of Things. With IoTs, it's all about the connection of anything that can be connected to the internet is what we term as Internet of Things, right? And usually with this, we are looking out for gadgets, devices that students could use. And with the advent of IoTs, we're always looking out for smart environments, to create smart environments where students can learn, if we look at the educational space. So in classrooms, we can have things like interactive whiteboards, smart projectors, and any tool, like I said, that can be connected to the internet is termed as an IoT. And these devices equally capture very useful data that could also be used for data mining. The last trend I would like to talk about is blockchain. Now, we are always talking about using technology to enhance education. We want to almost automate everything, but we have to, in as much as we want to automate everything, we also need to secure these systems, right? Student transcripts, certificates, admission processes, finances of education, and it is the blockchain technology that can help us do this. Blockchain actually started up with the advent of Bitcoin's technology, but now blockchain is actually used in various sectors just because of the security it provides. So we can actually have blockchain in even the health sector. They make use of blockchain, and educational sectors as well. Now, in Ghana, most of the time we are always just looking at the use of ICT tools when it comes to our research. I remember a few days, the first day, Prof told us that very little research is done in Africa or Ghana specifically. And also these research are always, we're always looking at how ICT tools are used. And then the other aspect of research is EDM, educational data mining, which also looks at smaller forms of data, as opposed to big data analytics that looks at larger volumes of data. So what I'm trying to say is that our research is focused on more or less 2 areas. And the results are always more or less, when it comes to use of ICT, the problems with instructors accepting technology or students accepting technology, or even if they are willing to accept it, there is lack of resources to provide those technological tools for them to use. And then in the field of educational data mining, most of the time we look out for student performance to analyze how well students have performed in a particular area or domain, as opposed to some criteria to see how. So in Ghana, most of the time, this is the type of research that is being done in the educational domain. So this actually tells us that if we want to enhance learning, we actually have to be more intentional about how we want to go about it. And it shouldn't be something that should just come up from nowhere. It should be an intentional process. And to me, for it to become intentional, I feel like there is one aspect of computing that either mistakenly was swept under the carpet or somehow was forgotten. And that is the human-computer interaction aspect. It actually started up as a discipline of computer science. We still acknowledge it as a discipline of computer science, but the reality is that HCI has grown even bigger than computer science. The author, John M. Carroll, the author or the founder of Human-Computer Interaction, said, HCI is no longer makes sense to regard HCI as a specialty of computer science. HCI has grown to be broader, larger, and more diverse than computer science. From this diagram, if we look at it, you see that computer science happens to be one of the fields in which HCI is a part of. Other fields include ergonomics and human factors, engineering, design, sociology and social psychology, ethnography, cognitive science, psychology, information security, speech, language, and pathology. HCI, human-computer interaction, is actually the study of how people interact with computers, especially as it relates to technology design. So with HCI, we look out for user-centered design, user interface, and user experience are combined with HCI to provide intuitive technology and products. It focuses on design theories and techniques used to make systems interactive. This brings me to a methodology that is used in HCI, which is the co-design method. Now, as we explore these emerging trends in education and research through technology, we cannot overlook the vital role of co-design in changing the learning landscape. Co-design involves actively involving students, teachers, administrators, and other stakeholders in the design process of educational technologies. By engaging all stakeholders, we ensure that technology addresses their specific needs, preferences, and learning goals. Co-design fosters collaboration, creativity, and sense of ownership, leading to the development of user-centered, effective, and innovative educational solutions. So co-design is all about designing with the stakeholders when you want to produce a particular technological tool. In this case, all stakeholders involved in education are supposed to be part of the co-design process. But what actually happens is most of the time, tools are developed and for people and not with them. And when that happens, it becomes difficult for people to accept such technologies. We have almost all the educational technologies we use here are not developed in Ghana. They are developed outside Ghana. So we talk about Google Classroom, Moodle, Kahoot, and so on and so forth. They were not developed for the Ghanaian student or for the African student in the first instance. So definitely, there might be challenges when it comes to accepting, when it comes to the learner and even instructors accepting such technologies. So there is the need for us to co-design with the stakeholders, involving them right from the beginning of the process to the very end. And the stakeholders are students, are usually the primary stakeholders in the co-design process for technological devices, teachers, administrators, parents, families, community and industry partners, and education researchers. So what co-design seeks to do is identify the stakeholders, those who would one way or the other affect the educational technology, design with them, go through a process of iteration, feedback, you go back until you get a product, a technological product that is acceptable to them. And usually when you are able to successfully go through this process, then the use of such technological device no longer becomes difficult for the users that you designed or created that technology for. They accept it and use it. And it takes into consideration their cultural backgrounds, their linguistic differences. It takes into consideration the ethical norms of the society. So the people or the stakeholders in this feel like the device is for them or the technological tool is for them. And in this case, using it becomes easy and more acceptable and more accessible. So HCI looks at principles such as user-centered design. User-centered design is fundamental to HCI. It's a fundamental HCI principle that emphasizes designing technology solutions based on the needs, goals, and preferences of the end users. Another principle of HCI is usability, which focuses on designing technology that is intuitive, efficient, and easy to use. In the co-design of technological and of educational technologies, usability principles ensure that user interface and interaction design of the technology are accessible and understandable for students and teachers. It involves considering factors such as simplicity, clarity, consistency, and error prevention to enhance the overall usability of the technology. Another key component of HCI is accessibility, making the tool accessible to as many people as possible, looking at diverse abilities and needs of users. Feedback and response is also a very important principle when it comes to the co-design of educational technologies, where an initial prototype is given to the stakeholders for them to experiment, and then give their views about it. It is taken back, redesigned, and brought to them until you get a solution that is well suited and acceptable to them. And the whole co-design process actually takes into consideration ethical norms of society. To conclude, we have actually seen that the pattern of conventional learning has turned into digital learning through information communication technologies. Precision education or individualized learning is replacing one-size-fits-all model of education, whilst precision education takes into account the unique characteristics of learners in their learning settings as well as their learning styles. So the one-size-fits-all strategy is fading out to a more precision learning, where learning is tailored towards a particular individual. And usually this is likened to the case of when you visit the hospital, the doctor actually listens to your problems and then gives you a prescription based on what you said you need. And this is where we want to send education to, personalized and precise to the individual. So to be able to achieve this precision we are talking about, the solution is to employ the co-design method in developing our digital technologies, where stakeholders are engaged right from the start to the very end. With this, the tools or the educational technologies would feel like they are ours and they were made for us, and we, with the proud ownership of the of the educational technologies, would embrace it and also be able to be part of the changing landscape of education, where technology is well embraced. So if we are able to do this, to co-design our technologies, what happens is that we produce educational devices that are meant for us. Thank you for your time.
Much, Faisa. If you could join us here, and then the second speaker can take over. Thank you. Now, second speaker is Mr. Charles Antipem, DEX Technologies.
Good evening. The president of the Academy, past presidents of the Academy, vice presidents of the Academy, fellows of the Academy, distinguished guests, and students who have finally arrived. I resisted the temptation of standing on other people's protocols because, like my friends often like to tell me, I am not very tall. And so I have to make my own protocols and stand on them so that you can see me from behind the podium. When I was given the topic that I was going to speak on, I dived into researching as much as I could. Immersive learning is something that has been very interesting to me for a long time. And so my topic is slightly different from what was originally intended. I'm speaking on indigenous innovative technologies for mass multidimensional immersive learning in Africa. I have also been told that I might be the youngest person in the history of this event to be standing up here, and for that I am eternally grateful to all the people who have made that possible, some of whom are here and others who are watching us online. I'm really, really grateful. So, whilst I was getting advice to put my presentation together, I was told that apparently professors also like stories, and so I should make my presentation as lively as possible. So I'm going to attempt to do that today. So I'm first going to start from discussing immersive learning and the equity problem it presents. Now, after I've done that, we are going to dive into multidimensional learning and look at it as a means of thinking about a solution to the problem that immersive learning as it is defined now presents. Now, after I've done that, the next thing I'll talk about is innovation to the rescue. How can we use the concept of innovation to help us solve this problem? After that, I'm going to give an example and attempt to provide a sort of blueprint for how innovative technologies can be created. And then, of course, after that, I will conclude my presentation. So, when I was about 5 years old, I had a car, believe it or not. Now, this is how that car looked like. Now, yes, to those who were outside, it was not a car. But to me, I could drive it and roll the windows down. It felt exactly like a car. This is the essence to me of being immersed in something. Whether it is physical or not, whether you are seeing it or not. It is an entirely internal process. Now, whilst that was going on, in 1962, in the US, this device was introduced called the Sensorama. Now, this was the first ever augmented reality and virtual reality device. Now, whilst I was busy driving my car and imagining everything, the folks there thought it would rather be better to see it. And so they designed this machine so you could sit inside it and it would project whatever you wanted. So you could drive a car or do whatever you want, but then you would see it, so you don't have to imagine it. Now, this went on for quite some time, and it's basically taking over the domain of immersive learning. To the extent that now, just like the speaker before me mentioned, immersive learning is defined as the process of learning with the usage of simulated or artificial environments through the use of digital technology. Others have also defined it as a training or learning method that allows learners to interact with the real world or in real world scenarios digitally or virtually in an engaging learning environment. Now, this sounds really nice, and in fact, virtual reality and augmented reality are fantastic technologies, like the speaker before me said. But this presents a problem. What is this problem? Now, this is the latest virtual reality headset in the world today. It costs $3,400 for each set. In Africa, the average amount spent per student is $300 a year. It's a problem. Now, this is also against the backdrop that Africa needs more scientists and engineers. Africa needs the immersive learning that results from engagement with tools like this. But here we are in the situation where, based on the scope of research and implementation, based on the cost of it, we simply cannot afford it. At least not yet. So the question that I decided to ask then is, are digital tools like AR and VR and immersive learning inexplicably linked? Is the only way you can achieve immersive learning by using tools like these? Now, there's a concept known as multidimensional learning. What is this concept? Now, multidimensional learning seeks to provide a framework within which all learning occurs. What it basically says is that there are three key areas or three key dimensions through which learning occurs: the social, emotional, and cognitive. Now, no matter what you use, it doesn't matter the kind of tool you're using. If these three dimensions are engaged with, learning occurs. Which means that there are the methods that you can use to achieve these experiences. And then there are the tools, which usually are called teaching and learning materials, that you can also use to deliver whatever method you intend to use. But what I did not find, and I've decided to add here, are now the modes by which it is delivered. And now, virtual and physical. So what are the key points here? We've talked about multidimensional learning and how it tells us that there are three key dimensions that, if these dimensions are touched on, learning occurs. So I am being bold here and defining immersive learning then as a learning experience or any learning experience that strongly engages the social, emotional, and cognitive dimensions of a learner. By broadening the scope this way, we get to appreciate that non-digital tools that may not be as expensive as the VR headsets could also provide the kind of immersive learning we require. So then the question becomes, how do you design such non-digital tools that can create immersive learning? Innovation to the rescue. The concept of innovation, as presented by Christensen, has three core elements. We have affordability, simplicity or ease of integration, and then it has to be accessible. Basically, Christensen postulates that anything or any act that results in these three things can be seen as an innovation. So how do we use these to guide us to design immersive non-digital tools? Now, the first thing I would say is production process. There are many incredible production processes out there now that can enable you produce at low volumes. So using methods like 3D printing can drastically reduce the cost of building any tool because the upfront cost is really, really low. Okay, good. Right, so low volume manufacturing can greatly reduce the cost of any innovative tool you seek to build. Materials. When selecting materials for the said innovation you're looking to build, accessibility of the materials, not just to you, the one who is making the tool, but to those who use the tool. Sometimes you can design the tool such that the person who is using the tool gets to find some of the materials themselves to augment what you have already given them. Pedagogy. Once the tool hits the classroom, how will it be used? This is something you need to think about as well. And the way to think about it is to use simple concepts that the students already know to build upon in completing whatever experiment you seek for them to build. And I'll give you an example shortly about how that works. The final thing is curriculum integration. Whatever you do, make sure the tool you are building fits into the curriculum within the area that you are looking to implement it. It provides the easiest means of integrating it anywhere. Now, all of these things add up to increase the accessibility. So we've learned here that we can apply the process of process of integration to create innovative tools. But how does this work in practice? How do we actually do this? Let me give you some examples. So what you see here on the left is what you would see if you looked into a virtual reality headset or you had an augmented reality set. It's a model of the human lungs. It's very nice. You can increase the transparency or decrease it and then get to actually see what is inside it. This is a very interesting process and very beneficial to the learner. Now, on the left side, it's a much simpler model, but very interesting in a different way. Now, with this model, the students have used plastic bottles and some balloons to build a model of the lungs. Now, in doing this, they have to recall their ideas or what they've learned with materials and their different properties. So they use the bottle to represent the thorax or the chest cavity because the bottle is much more rigid. And then they use the balloon to represent the diaphragm, which is something that is flexible, and as well as the lungs, which also expands and contracts. So in building this setup to understand the mechanism of breathing, they actually relying on previous knowledge, a process known as scaffolding that actually helps them remember the things they've learned even better and helps them build more connections. And so whereas this might not be as fancy as what you see in the VR, it still provides an immersive learning experience for the student at a fraction of the cost. The last example. On the left side, again, something you see in a virtual reality headset is the model of the human digestive system. Fancy, you can have it labeled, very nice. But on the other side, this is actually a picture from Afia Denyiba in the Volta region. The students there were given an assignment to look at the human digestive system. You have the cards that have been cut out into the shape of the various parts of the digestive system. They fix it on the board, and then they take turns to come and explain the various parts of the system. So each student comes and maybe I'm talking about the lung, I'm talking about the esophagus. The next student will come and talk about the liver. The next student will come and talk about the large intestines. They work together as a group and had a sense of agency, a sense of responsibility. Again, it might not be as fancy as the other one, but it does provide an immersive learning experience at a fraction of the cost. Allow me to show you an example of this in action. The science set. A few years ago, my co-founder and I decided to take this idea and actually run with it. And what we did was really simple. We looked at the curriculum in Ghana from head to toe. And then looked at all the experiments that need to be performed. And endeavored to design simple ways that each of those experiments could be performed and design manufacturing processes based on emerging technology, based on low volume manufacturing like 3D printing, to create these two we call the science set. So now it's very simple. We took all the materials and then put them in a box. And each box represented a particular term and the specific activities they need to do that term. So now, students can carry a science set in their bags with the materials inside to perform any given experiment in the curriculum. We broke it down into terms to make it even much more affordable. So that even if a parent cannot afford to buy all the sets for the entire year, they can actually buy a set for just this term with the materials you need to perform the experiment for just that particular term. So you can see some pictures of the set, and we have some of the sets here as well. I'm sure maybe during the question or after the event, we can have a look at it. Now, I'd like to play a video for you to show you the science set in action. I don't know if the guys at the back can help me with how to get the video played. So this is a school. Even if the sound doesn't come, it's fine. If the video plays, it's okay. Great. So you see some students here. Now this is their sciences. So inside the set, they have all the materials that they need to perform specific experiments. And you can see the smiles on their faces. Students are always excited when they get to interact with tools. So when you see 4.1, that means class 4, first term. 4.2, class 4, second term. So each student has their set. They sometimes work in groups. They sometimes work as individuals to build different projects and do different experiments. Ask an excited teacher saying how happy he is. And one of the things that the teacher said in there that the students often can't wait for when it's a science lesson. They are always asking him, when are we having science next? Even he has become the favorite teacher in the school. And so any given experiment, the students can actually perform it using materials from their science set. And the excitement, it's just incredible. So from electrical circuits to experiments in matter to experiments in biology, physics. Great, thank you. So that is the science set, and I hope you all get a chance to experience it. Did you give the Play-Doh out? You can start here. So my able assistant here is we're going to do a simple activity right now, all of us. So he's giving you some Play-Doh so that you can play with. So you can come this way. And we're actually going to do an experiment. It's not just for play's sake. We're actually going to experience something interesting. Whilst he's going around doing that, Sammy, we can come this way. Because it's not enough. Let's make sure our fellows at the academy get to do the experiment. Okay, so in conclusion, while virtual reality, augmented reality, and other digital tools offer exciting possibilities for immersive learning, it is crucial to acknowledge that these tools are not the sole means to achieve immersive learning. Innovation can be a catalyst for creative, non-digital solutions that combine multidimensional learning principles with affordability, scalability to enable mass immersive learning. Africa has a unique opportunity to leapfrog traditional education models by embracing innovative non-digital tools to bridge the gap between the potential benefits of immersive learning and the limited resource availability on the continent. The Play-Doh that you've been given, I want you to do something for me. Please roll it into a nice ball. Try to roll it into like a really tiny ball. Just using your palm, just roll it. You're trying to create like a sphere, a little sphere. And I can already see smiles on your faces. Yeah, it's no matter how simple the activity is, when you are touching something, when you're doing something, you are excited and you are learning. Okay, so let me know when you are done. And I see people are using different methods. Some are using their fingers, some are using their palm. Okay, good. Now, this is the activity. It's actually an activity in the set where students explore the relative sizes of bodies in the solar system. So this model you see here is again a model they built with the materials from the science set. This is a scaled down model of the sun in our solar system. So the question is, if this is the size of the sun, what you're holding in your hands will be the size of the earth. So you can look at it and see how small it is. So this is the sun, and what you have in your hands there is the earth. So again, you could look into a virtual reality headset and see the solar system. But when students engage with knowledge in this fashion, they're able to really appreciate the concepts that they're experiencing. Now, my dad was a science teacher for about 20 years of his life. And in that time, what he had was a bottle and a funnel that we used to measure rainfall. And today, me being his son, the tools that we helped create is enabling students in that same classroom perform science experiments, build robots, write reports, come and do their presentation in class, and experiencing learning in a way that my dad probably never thought possible. Again, Africa indeed has a great opportunity to leapfrog our education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. And we have our last speaker, Dr. Samuel Boateng. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. All right. So I think that if you are the last speaker, maybe your job is just to summarize everything and then you go home, right? Yeah, so I'll try to do just that briefly so that we can all leave here and go home. Whatever I have to say have one way or the other been said since Monday till now. So I will truly give a summary of some few things, then I'll add just a little more, then we can go. First of all of us are here because we've had some form of education up to some level. And then this education, no doubt, has made us who we are or what we are today. So we know that education, okay. So education is something that we have all experienced, and then it's just the process of what? Acquiring knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes through a variety of different modes of learning. We have heard of e-learning, we have heard of classroom learning, online learning, distance education, and so forth and so on. We receive education through different modes of learning. And then when we do that, this education, be it formal or informal, can take place either in the classroom or somewhere else. Now, UNESCO in 2015 said that education is a fundamental human right, and as a fundamental component of individual empowerment and societal advancement. On Monday, Prof mentioned that education has a direct correlation to economic development of a nation. And it's true. We shall see how that is. Because when you receive education, it's not for your individual benefit alone, but whatever that you have, the knowledge and the skills, you use it, and then it benefits society as well. So everyone has the right to education, according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Now, education also can be defined as the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, attitudes that enable individuals to develop their potential and especially to participate fully in their communities and society and to lead productive, satisfying lives. Again, I've said that we are here because we've had education and we are all living our lives. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then education is the process of living through a continuous restructuring of experiences, according to John Dewey. And then we achieve, or we want to go to school or achieve education for a purpose. We don't just go to school for the fun of it or just to while away time. There is a reason why we choose to go to school and do a particular program and study some specific courses. Again, John Dewey said that the purpose of education has always been to everyone, in essence, the same. And this purpose is to give the young the things they need to develop in an orderly, sequential way into members of society. So we achieve, or we want to achieve education for a purpose. And that purpose is that so that we can develop into people who can contribute meaningfully to society and impact society with our knowledge and skills. Again, it comes back to what Prof said on Monday, that there is a direct link between the level of education of a nation and then their level of development. A research by Coulomb, Tremblay, and Marchand found out that for every 1% increment in the average literacy score of a country, they increase their GDP by 1.5%, and also their work productivity rises by 2.5%. So you see the multiplying effect that education is having on nations as well. So it comes down to the fact that if countries like Ghana and other sub-Saharan African countries want to have rapid development, then we should make sure that we have more people educated so that we can have a mass pool of people with knowledge and skills who can contribute to the development process. Now, look at this graph here. I don't know if it is clear to everybody. It shows that this graph shows the share of global adults 15 and above who can both read and write. When you look at the graph, you see that between 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, 2022, Sub-Saharan Africa was better in terms of literacy rates than South Asia, right? But unfortunately, as time goes on, we are declining, and now, globally, Sub-Saharan Africa has the least educated population in the world. It's not a good thing. Prof mentioned on Monday that we are contributing very less, and this is one of the evidence of it, that we are educating less and less people as we move on. Whilst others are climbing up, unfortunately, we are going down. So when you look at this graph, where we are, and then you look at our level of development in this part of the world, then you can truly appreciate the fact that there is a direct link between the level of education of a people and how well they can develop. Now, you could say that one reason why probably Africa is doing worse as the years go by is maybe the kind of environment that we deliver our education. Because for everything to thrive, it must have the right conditions. A seed will only grow when it has the right conditions to make it grow. So if we are not doing well in our education, it could be that we are not doing it in the right environment or the environment that we are supposed to do it in. Now, the classroom environment is where we receive education. It's where we try to achieve the purpose of education. Okay. And so it says that the classroom environment is not just the physical building. We all know that already. It's just the way the classroom is, the layout, the seating, and the availability of materials can have a significant impact on students' interests and willingness to learn. So if you don't have a good learning environment, it negatively affects how the students learn. A positive classroom environment promotes academic achievement and engagement, the social, emotional, and affective well-being of students, and then a sense of belonging and community. The new classroom environment, if we want to close the gap, just as we have seen, it means that we have to do something different from what we are doing now. It means that the kind of environment that we are having our education should change. We have to do something about our educational environment. But we also have to realize that the purpose of education has not changed. It's the same that we want to equip people with attitudes and skills and knowledge to live meaningful life. But then, the demands of education have changed over the years. On Monday, one of the speakers mentioned that technology has influenced education so much that we cannot separate the two anymore. The kind of education that we are supposed to receive and give to our learners in this 21st century must give them three things. One, all learners should be able to develop their 21st century skills. All learners should be able to acquire education for global competence, and then also education for sustainable development, which allows every human being to acquire the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values necessary to shape a sustainable future. So the education today demands that all learners at all levels develop these three things. We should develop our 21st century skills. We should acquire education for global competence, and then education for sustainable development. You cannot acquire that kind of education in this environment. You can't. You cannot develop 21st century skills in this classroom. You cannot. You cannot acquire education for global competence in this classroom. You cannot acquire education for sustainable development in this classroom. I dare say that none of us here will want our children or brothers and sisters to be in this kind of education environment. We have to make the effort at least to move from this environment to this one, okay, where in the least there are computers to teach us computing lessons. Or better still, we can move our classroom environment from here to here. Okay? We can do that. If we want to achieve the 3 demands of 21st century education, then we must have a classroom environment that looks something like this. Okay? That looks something like this. Now, in this classroom environment, one thing that is dominant in the new classroom environment is what? Technology. Not just any technology, but the appropriate technology. It's very important that we stress on that, so that we don't just carry technology into the classroom just for the sake of it. We have to do an analysis and identify the right technology that we need for the right age group and for the right purpose. Because as my brother mentioned, it is expensive to acquire technology. So we have to make sure that whatever technology we are bringing into the classroom will help us to accelerate our learning and improve on whatever that we want to do. So now I will say that what does the technology in the classroom does for the learner and the teacher? In the classroom, technology serves as a knowledge provider and co-creator of information. A technology can be a mentor, an assessor, and has made life easier for students. According to Cosley, integrating technology into education can lead to increased student motivation, student engagement, student collaboration, hands-on learning opportunities, confidence in students, and their technology skills. Being able to develop digital skills is one of the 21st century skills. And if you don't have technology in the classroom, they cannot develop those skills and they'll be left behind. Now, it also promotes active, collaborative, and cooperative, creative, integrative, and evaluative learning. It improves communication between students and teachers. Personalized learning, we have heard of it since Monday, and today we have heard about it. It expands access to education and also helps improve education experience, just as we saw in the video which was just played. The students are enhancing their experience in education by the use of technology. And more importantly, it helps to streamline administrative tasks and help to efficiently manage schools. So technology is no longer a thing of the future. Maybe, unfortunately for some people, it is still a thing of the future. But for some of us, it is now. And we are looking at how to improve upon it to make it better for the future. So we are here, we are there, and it's part of us. Now, what will I say more about VR and AR? It has all been said already. I call it the VAR, Virtual Augmented Reality. All have been said already. So as I said, I will just summarize it and say that it helps to create engaging and interactive learning experience that enhance understanding, retention, and practical application of knowledge. What does VR and AR do for learners and teachers? It helps offer It helps offer a high level of immersion, thereby enabling students to interact with virtual objects, environments, and scenarios. It can help students to explore realistic scenarios, practice skills in a safe environment, and apply theoretical knowledge to real-world contexts. VAR technologies enable students to visualize and manipulate abstract concepts or complex spatial information. These technologies also have the potential to address individual learning needs and promote inclusivity by accommodating different learning styles, providing multi-sensory experiences and offering alternative pathways for students with disabilities. Yesterday, Professor Adekoya mentioned assistive technology that we specifically design for students with impairments, hearing, visual, writing, and all those kind of impairments. We can design virtual reality technologies that will help these students experience better learning. So here, maybe we have to replace this image with this one, because this student is using a VR to look at what? Our solar system, which I've just learned that you can do it in a very simple, cheaper, and easier way than this one. So maybe I'll just replace the diagram with this one, and then we move on. So this is just one way of what we using virtual reality in the classroom. Again, artificial intelligence, as we have heard in the last 2 days, is not here to kick us out of our jobs or to replace us, but we are to use it to help make our work easier, faster, better, and so forth and so on. So AI has the potential to help teachers do their work. And how does it do it? I'll again just give the brief points. It can help teachers to what? Automate tasks such as grading, creating lesson plans. On Monday, Prof mentioned that you can use ChatGPT to create a course outline, and it does it faster, better. So that is just one example here. That we can use AI to create lesson plans and also manage student record. AI-powered feedback, very important, saves teachers time and provides timely and efficient feedback to students. AI algorithms can tailor educational content to meet individual needs. Again, it comes down to what? Personalized learning, as you have mentioned over and over again. And it enables students to learn at their own pace and in a way that suits their unique styles. An AI-powered tutoring system said that virtual tutors providing personalized guidance, feedback, and assistance to students. Again, AI-powered virtual assistant and chatbots systems to support students by answering their questions, providing guidance, and offering additional learning resources. Again, when we use AI to analyze student data, we can identify patterns that can predict students at risk of falling behind or dropping out. And also, we can use AI to suggest and recommend possible career paths for students when we do an analysis of their academic records or performance over the years. We could say that this student has strength in physics, so let us recommend that the person takes higher education in physics or in any other course that they may have strength in. Again, AI can support lifelong learning or informal learning or learning outside the classroom. In the beginning, I mentioned that education doesn't only take place in the classroom. Ms. Pfizer mentioned mobile e-learning, which is something that has come to stay. We are doing it and we continue to do it. Okay, yesterday I joined the program on my smartphone, YouTube. So mobile e-learning has come to stay. So AI and all the associated technologies are also helping people who do not have the time to sit in the classroom or who are always on the move to also receive education. Okay? So it can help them to, one way or the other, map up unique learning paths that consider their interests, objectives, and prior knowledge. And then also we can use AI to develop adaptive learning systems which may be used to tailor learning resources and offer recommendations based on individual students' interests. And also students now have access to distant subject matter experts, okay? And mentors who can answer their questions and offer tailored advice through the use of what? AI-driven natural language processing and machine learning techniques. So we are at the point where AI is no longer where we confine them to the classroom alone. We have taken them outside the classroom as well, and we are making use of them in so many ways. Now, whilst we are trying to do all these things, okay, whilst we are applying AI to help students, to help teachers, and then also to help lifelong learning and learn outside the classroom. Gradually we are developing learners who are globally competent. Because as long as we are incorporating technology, the appropriate ones, which will meet the needs of the subject and the students and whatever is being taught, then we are gradually getting to the point where we are providing our learners the education that they will need for global competence. I say that it doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter which part of the world you receive your education. If your education has made you globally competent, you should be able to function anywhere in the world without much problem. You just have to adjust to the environment, and then off you go. Because it shouldn't be the case that when you receive your education in, for example, Ghana, and then you travel to, let's say, UK, and then your education is obsolete. They look at you and they, where did you school? What did you learn? Okay, so we have to make our education global so that our learners can function and fit in well. So globally competent students can investigate the world. They are aware, and they are curious, and they are interested in learning about the world and how it works. They can identify multiple perspectives and understand that they have a unique perspective and that others may or may not share it, and can express their ideas clearly and make informed decisions. So when we are giving students that kind of education, it should equip them to be able to do these four things. Investigate the world is, to me, my number one concern. Because if you don't have the right tools, the right technology, you will not. If you don't have simple tools like this, how can you investigate the solar system and understand the relative size of the Earth and the Sun? So we should be able to help them to investigate the world. Okay. And then we also need to make sure that all the AI and all the technology that we are bringing into the classroom will also be able to give our students education for sustainable development. It is very, very important. Okay. So this education allows every human being to acquire, yes, I've mentioned it already. So the modern technologies can give students access to what? Unlimited education resources. It gives students a multilingual and cross-cultural understanding through the use of AI-driven natural language processing and what translatable technologies. She mentioned Duolingo. My kids have installed Duolingo on my phone. And then every time, Daddy, if you want to play Duolingo, give us your phone. And they are learning French and English. They are learning Spanish and English by using a simple app. Now they can greet in Spanish. They can ask, how are you in Spanish? by using a simple app that does what? Language translation for them. So they are, in their own small way, receiving education of global competence and sustainable development by using technology. She talked a lot about blended learning. I wanted to talk about it, but she has already done that. So it's just the thoughtful integration of classroom and physical learning experiences with what? Online experience. So I will skip that one. And then also mention this. She has also covered ACI. We cannot talk about technology in education, immersive learning, and all of those things without mentioning human-computer interaction. And it's not possible. And technology that makes all these devices, virtual reality, augmented reality, all of them possible are the principles of what? ACI. ACI is very key to what all the technology that we want and use and need in the classroom. Okay. So ACI is responsible for the creation of a user-friendly and intuitive interface that promotes efficient interaction between people and what? Educational technologies. ACI ensures that all the technology that we have in education are what? User-centered design, where learners and educators are placed at the center of the design process. She mentioned co-creation. If you want to put the students and the educators at the center, then you have to involve them in the design process. ACI is responsible for designing intuitive interfaces which are well designed and easy to use. They are also responsible for what? Accessibility and inclusivity by considering diverse learners' needs and abilities. And ACI is also responsible for collaborative and social interaction by designing interfaces to facilitate communication, group work, and peer collaboration, and to foster a sense of community and enhance them outcomes. So all the AI tools, all the whatever the technology that we want to use in the classroom, behind all the fancy things we see is ACI. They drive everything. And so if, and just as she mentioned, ACI is beyond computer science. It is psychology, it is sociology, it is anthropology, it is whatever G. So anything that's, any idea that you want to introduce in the classroom in what? A form of technology, you don't need only the designers, you need the psychologists, you need and the social scientists all to be part of the design process to be able to design the appropriate technologies for the classroom. Some challenges that we face in Ghana in terms of achieving the new classroom environment are listed here. And the socioeconomic gap between the rural and urban areas is one of the biggest problems. The cost of setting up, you mentioned, and maintaining the classroom environment, the concerns regarding data privacy and security. Yesterday, Professor did justice to the ethics and the privacy and those things. And then there's some resistance to change, it has been mentioned here. And then sometimes there's what? Inadequate infrastructure, like electricity, internet connectivity. In some rural areas, you may not be able to introduce computers for long because they don't have reliable, stable electricity to power their computers. And in conclusion, I'll bring back this graph once again to let us know where we are in terms of what? Global education. Sub-Saharan Africa is way, way, way behind. And one way that we can leapfrog or try to close this gap is to introduce appropriate technology in the classroom, which can help our students to have interesting learning experiences so that they can develop the global competence that they need to develop and become 21st century learners with the skills that they need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you agree we've had 3 fantastic lectures. Can we give them all a round of applause, please? Yes. We're now going to have time is fast spent, so about 4 questions and answers on the floor in person, and then maybe 2 online. Thank you. And please, you get up, you introduce yourself, your institution, and then the lecturer that you want to answer your question. Thank you.
My name is Tego, fellow of the Academy. This is all fantastic. I'm familiar with these sets. Are you working closely with the Ministry of Education for this? If so, how far have we got to? My second bit, the tickling one, is that the general concept of education is that you are not going to leave anybody behind. In our setting, we have any schools under trees. So personally, I'm not interested in these urban schools and so on. It's how we're going to bring those people on board. So there are real practical issues here. And I want all of you to give us ideas as to how to overcome that in relation to the topic at hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. On the engagement with the Ministry of Education, we have engaged the ministry. In fact, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, when we finished developing the science set, did not have a category for that kind of teaching and learning material. And so they actually created a special category for us and then approved the science set to be used in schools. And so we've engaged them several times, met the minister several times. And so we are still pushing to see what's possible. I know governments can be slow. The wheels of government turn very slowly. So we are just hoping that we'll get the opportunity to bridge the gap with the technology side. And it sort of leads me into the second tickling one that you said. I am of the firm belief that with technologies that are designed with our people in mind, technologies that are designed with innovation in mind, we can bridge the gap. And the typical example, I guess it's the only thing I know, the science set, right? If you take this experiment, for instance, it's drinking straws and some paper connectors. But as the other speaker said, you could replace that expensive VR experience with that. And the picture I showed earlier about the school in Afia Dengba, it's one of the things that made me so happy this year. Because when I received that video, I basically couldn't sleep that night. I was just so excited to see that these students although they do not have all the fancy technologies, although they don't have the best of labs or classrooms, are still able to experience science in a way that I felt was at least interesting for them, right? And they got to work together and got to experience the concept in a different way. And so I think that we need to think about how we can use the technology to bridge the gap by thinking about it, in an innovative way, like I alluded in my presentation. So thank you very much.
To add to what my brother said, I would like to re-emphasize the methodology of co-design. Probably we were thinking that once you want to go through the co-design form, you are definitely looking at developing some high-tech technology. But it could be that after engaging the necessary stakeholders in trying to bridge that gap or make education or educational technology more useful to our environment, we might realize that using Moodle is not our thing, or using Google Classroom, Padlet, all these tools that we take from the Western world or the Asian side. So I would like to re-emphasize the need to co-design our technologies or our educational tools. And with that, we might probably bridge that gap where those under trees would also be part and not left out in education.
Thank you. I think that the solution is very simple. There should be a deliberate, thoughtful commitment by the government to bridge the gap. Private sector can help, but they can do so little. And individuals can help, they can do so little. It is up to the government to be committed to it, because they control the resources of the country, and they know where to put the resources to best use. Unfortunately, I see that there is no even distribution of the resources of the country. So until the government becomes deliberate about closing the gap, I think it will be difficult for it to be closed by anybody else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Laura Foster, and a student teacher of Accra College of Education. So to Dr. Samuel.
Thank you very much for the question. It's a difficult one, but I would say that the first step is to identify the appropriate technology for your environment. Because you can, as I mentioned, you can't just carry technology and put it in an environment where it will not be useful. So the fact that some schools are using VR headsets. Doesn't mean that you also need to introduce VR headsets in your classroom. You can opt for this one, and then you need to make sure that whatever you are bringing in the classroom will solve the problem that you have identified. Because, and it's expensive, and it's not, you need training to do it, you have to train other people to use them, you have to let the students use them, so you have to be deliberate about what you introduce in the classroom. And then you have to then design your lessons and class activities around the technology that you have introduced so that you can make maximum use of it in such a way that the students will have direct interaction with the technology if that is the purpose of its introduction. So you need to make sure that you bring the right technology that will serve the needs, and then make sure that you will be very cautious about how you use it, because it has to serve the purpose for which you bring it in. And then your next question is the long term. Again, it comes back to those in charge of our education. Individuals can try, associations can try, but it comes down to the government. I have started a little task on my own by doing some analysis of the various curriculum that we have to see if they are matching up to giving our students the global competence that they need or not. Some small thing I've started on my own. So we need to, the government has to make sure that the kind of curriculum education that they are rolling out is what will put the students, give them what they need for now and the future. Because, and that is a long-term solution. One reason that I am told free SHS was introduced was to boost or to increase the literacy rate that we have in Ghana, and by extension increase productivity and so forth and so on. I think after some 3, 4, 5 years, when the first batch of free SHS beneficiaries have graduated from university, we will see the impact that probably they are having on the economy as a whole, because the government is putting a lot of money in there, and we'll see whether the returns are worth it. So I see free SHS probably as one of the long-term ways that we can close the gap, apart from the introduction of the appropriate technology and curriculum in the classroom. Thank you.
The last question, please.
I am Adebayo Adekoya. Mine is not a question, but to just support Dr. Boateng's response to the last question here. There are two things he needed clarification. One has to do with how do we improvise in the case where we don't have access to the technologies. Improvisation is very simple. As a teacher, if you have a mobile phone that is internet compliant, you can divide your students into groups. There are free e-resources that comes with every mobile phones that you can download on your phone. Again, most of us subscribe to Google Mail. Google has designed several educational tools that are available that we can use. Again, there are other open virtual labs once we have some 1 or 2 computers, we can appeal to parent association to support the schools to provide some of these resources. And then we can encourage the Ghana Education Service to join Africa OER, Open Educational Resources, where educational learning materials are already available free. And the last point is the long-term impact. I'm going to pick it from what might seem to be negative. The first one has to be the health implication of using these resources. As we plan to bring in technology, we must engage our health professionals to study them and to advise on how to use these devices correctly. How long should you glare at the screen? How long should you use? Because they have their health implications. The other part, the speaker mentioned HCI, and he mentioned that you bring in different set of people, psychologists, philosophers, and so on, even fine artists. Now, you discover that many people, when they use the phone, they become isolated from others. So you need to manage that one, the use of phone, from being isolated from your immediate environment or society. Thank you.
No online. No online. Final.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Please, my name is Fianku Emmanuel Eje from Accra College of Education. And please, I would like to ask, with this technology movement that we are talking about, going forward, I would want to find out from the speakers how the setting of our questions should be. Because I remember I did my internship recently and I was teaching computing. And I tried to use my laptop to help students use Microsoft to create things like tables and other stuff. But then there was a particular student that I asked, your colleagues are here learning how we can use the laptop to create this. Why don't you join? Then what the student told me is that even in the end, they will still ask her questions that she should use what she has memorized to write. So she is okay using the textbook or memorizing the textbook and then in the end, producing the answer. So I don't know, how should setting of our questions be? For instance, if a student is using this and then the student doesn't see that at the end of his examination, he's going to be examined on how he can practically use these tools to do something, then it means that even he doing the practicals in quotes does not even give him any benefit. So I want to find out how the final examination that we have been writing from basic and then SHS level, how should it now look like so that students will find interest in doing the practical aspect of the work? Thank you.
Okay, that's a really interesting question. And I can see Prof. Elziefa Kaufman smiling because this is something she's concerned about as well. I can't say I have the solutions to all of that. WAEC could probably have to come and answer this question. However, what I can tell you is what is happening now. We started a project called Project Alpha with the Elziefa Kaufman Foundation, where we sought to, instead of waiting for the government and WAEC and all those people to do stuff, what can we do on our own? And so far, in less than a year, we've engaged 200 private schools that are currently integrating the practicals into their teaching and learning. It's on their timetable. And at the end of the term, the students do practical work as part of the examination. And so the students get a score on the practicals. And we are here to actually go and do like the full study. But so far, the feedback we are getting is just incredible.
The students are actually finding the practical part more interesting than going to do the theory. And so I think there is room for us to innovate. And I definitely do think that, WAEC hopefully should hear this and answer this question. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that we should also understand is that we are not teaching them the skills just for them to write exam. We are giving them lifelong skills. So we should be able to let the students understand that whatever they are learning is not for the purposes of examination, but it is for their life after school. So for the part of the questions, I think I won't say anything about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so with regards to the issue of the assessment, yes, it's a problem actually, especially now with the advent of these educational technologies, AI and all that. But I had an experience about a year ago, and as I sit here today, I still remember, it's like it's something I had gone through. And that experience was to develop or repurpose a face-to-face course into a blended learning one. Throughout that course, we were never asked to define blended learning. When every week there was, a set of instructions that you have to do. And the instructor will tell you right from there, this is what blended learning is. So you're not going to come back and I'll ask you what is blended learning, no. But then the assessment was not even a sit-down exam. We had to prove that we learned something by providing evidence. So the whole purpose was, okay, you have gone through blended learning training. How did you use that in your teaching? So when I come to class, I must do things that blended learning taught me. I had to be intentional about the aspects that were like face-to-face. I had to be intentional about the aspects that were online. And if it is face-to-face and I give an assignment, I have to justify why they are doing that work. And if it is online, you have to justify why it should even be online. So if a particular assessment can be done face-to-face, why are you sending it online in the first place? So what I'm trying to say is that even the instructors who are delivering education need to be retrained on how to give out assessments. It is changing. We have to move away from the what. And then when the students realize that you are no longer going to ask them what, they will take the practicals seriously. Because in my training, we were asked to go out and interview our colleagues. And you have to come and write a report and show evidence. There were instances we had to take pictures of ourselves undergoing the process. And that was what was used to assess us, and not a sit-down exam where you are answering questions. So we have to kind of repurpose the whole educational cycle for us to be able to achieve some of these things.
So audience, you've heard it all. And I can't summarize these wonderful lectures. I mean, this is a brave new world of Internet of Things. I had blended learning, gamification, AI transformation, but in all, it says Africa must embrace innovative, immersive learning, or else this is an opportunity for us to leapfrog and to have an AI in this brave new world. Some of us have to be dragged kicking and, but we all have to join in to make this reality for the rural and urban. This is the opportunity that can break the divide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emerita Prof, for those remarks. And all too soon, we've come to the end of the last day of this year's public forum. You'll agree with me that it has been a most exciting 3 days. And I personally would have liked to hear some more. So hopefully we can bring back some of our speakers sometime later to give us more presentations on this really fascinating topic. I'd like to end by thanking, as usual, the students from Accra College of Education. I hope that you've picked up a few things that you can do in the classroom to help us move our education standard a little higher. Thank you for being here again today. Could we please give them a round of applause? Thank you very much. I'd like to, the president himself is here. I'd like to recognize him, Professor Kofi. I saw our former vice president here, but I believe she has left, Professor Adefio Shandov. I'd like to thank our fellows here. You've braved the rain and the traffic, and for that, we are very thankful. And we look forward to seeing you again at the next lecture. I think in 2 weeks we have an inaugural lecture, and the announcement will be made in due time. Our guests online, I would like to thank you for joining us this evening. And for everybody else whom I have not mentioned, consider yourself properly thanked. And there will be refreshments, as usual, just right outside the auditorium. Thank you very much. If you could please stand while the chair and the presenters leave the room. Thank you very much.